You know, when we think about history, we usually focus on the big, explosive events. But sometimes, the most revealing moments are the ones right before everything changes. We're going to travel back in time to a single day, just 1 month before the start of the American Civil War, and our only guide is this newspaper. It's like a time capsule. So, let's open it up.
So, picture this. The date is Wednesday, March 13th, 1861. Abraham Lincoln has been in office for 9 days. 7 states have already left the Union, but you have to understand, war was not a sure thing yet. It was this terrifying possibility everyone was talking about, but in the meantime, well, life was just going on. This paper captures a nation just holding its breath.
And as you start to read through these columns, one thing becomes crystal clear. The entire country's attention, from Washington, D.C. down to the smallest town, is focused on one single spot on the map, a federal fort sitting right in the middle of Charleston Harbor, Fort Sumter.
What's so striking here is the total uncertainty. The lead story basically admits that nobody really knows what the new president is going to do. It's all rumors and speculation. As the paper puts it, the secret is well kept. Is Lincoln going to send more troops, or is he going to pull them out? The whole nation is just waiting.
And you've got to realize, this wasn't just some military decision. Oh no, this was the biggest political dilemma of the day. And this newspaper, it just crackles with the energy of this frantic debate that's pulling the brand new administration in totally opposite directions.
So here's the bottom line. Lincoln is in an absolutely impossible spot. On the one hand, he can reinforce the fort. That shows the federal government is still in charge, right? But it would almost certainly start a war the paper says would cost an immense loss of life. On the other hand, he could abandon it. That might buy some time, avoid bloodshed, but he'd look weak, like he was just giving in. Some people were even calling it a barren honor to keep it. So, what would you do?
And listen, this wasn't just a Northern debate. The paper makes a point of talking about Southern Union men. These are folks in states like Virginia that hadn't left the Union yet, and they're practically begging Lincoln to just take a breath. Their argument is, hey, if you just back off, if you don't send troops, you give us the political space we need to beat the secessionists here at home. They truly believe they can save the nation from civil war if they're just given the chance.
Wow, I mean, this quote right here just shows you everything. It's tucked away in a report from Washington, but it is an absolute bombshell. Even a die-hard secessionist is admitting that if Lincoln pulls the troops out of Sumter, their whole movement is finished, ruined. Can you even imagine the kind of pressure that puts on the president? Both sides are looking at this one fort as the whole ballgame.
So, with all of that swirling around him, how is this brand new president, just days on the job, actually handling it? Well, the newspaper gives us this fantastic little clue, not in some big official statement, but in a very classic Lincoln kind of way.
So the story goes like this. A group of Virginians comes to the White House, and they're pressing Lincoln to abandon the fort, as a gesture of peace. And Lincoln, as the paper says, he always does, he responds with a story. It's an old fable about a lion who falls in love with a beautiful woman and asks her father for permission to marry her.
So the father in the story says, "All right, Mr. Lion, you can marry my daughter, but on one condition." He says, "My daughter, she's a little afraid of your really sharp teeth and your very long claws. So if you really love her, you'll have them removed." And the lion, completely blinded by love, he says, "Okay, deal."
And well, you can probably guess what happens next. As soon as the lion is defenseless, teeth pulled, claws cut, the father walks up with a club and just kills him. It's a brutal little story, but Lincoln's meaning is about to become painfully clear.
And with that one little story, Lincoln tells them everything they need to know. For him, giving up Fort Sumter isn't a peace offering. It's disarmament. It's pulling out the lion's teeth and claws. And the fact that this story was printed right here in the paper meant that anybody reading it knew exactly where the president stood, even if he hadn't officially said a word. He saw it as a trap.
Okay, so that's the giant national crisis playing out in Washington. But what's so amazing about a local paper like this is that on the very same page, you get a completely different story. Let's zoom way in now to the everyday lives of people on Cape Ann, Massachusetts.
I just love this. While the nation is debating whether it's going to even survive, what are they talking about at the Essex town meeting? Well, they're approving $1,800 for schools and $1,000 for highways. I mean, it's just so normal. The basic business of running a town just keeps on going.
And right beside that, you get this really touching human story. The town's doctor, a man named Josiah Lampson, is retiring after 40 years of service. An entire era is ending for the town of Essex. But it's a local era, a personal one, that has absolutely nothing to do with the drama unfolding down south.
This paper is also a stark reminder that even without a war, life was incredibly dangerous. There's this harrowing story about a fishing boat caught in a storm. A huge wave just crashes over the deck and sweeps 8 men into the freezing ocean. That was the immediate threat, the real and present danger these folks were living with every single day.
And hey, the march of history doesn't stop for petty crime, right? A woman named Caroline Anderson got nabbed for stealing a gold chain, and the local court sentenced her to 3 months. The wheels of local justice just kept on turning, totally unconcerned with the constitutional crisis hundreds of miles away.
And of course, there's the money. Here it is, just like every week, the Gloucester Fish Market Report. The market for cod is fair. Prices are steady. Mackerel's holding its price. Commerce, the real lifeblood of this town, is just chugging along with its familiar rhythm, completely under the shadow of this enormous storm that's gathering on the horizon.
So let's just pull back for a moment and look at the whole picture this one newspaper is painting for us. You have these two different worlds, the massive crisis of a nation and the small routines of daily life, and they're sitting right next to each other on the same printed page.
So what does that actually tell us? What does it mean to see the price of mackerel printed right next to a debate that's about to tear the country in two?
I think the key thing here is that on March 13, 1861, America was kind of living a double life. People were still funding their schools, watching doctors retire, and worrying about storms at sea, all while the entire country was quietly unraveling. Peace still felt possible. Normal still felt normal, even as the final decisions that would lead to war were already being made in Washington.
And if you need one last perfect piece of evidence of how strange things were, check out this little note from D.C. It talks about the pressure for office, all the people swarming the new president looking for a government job. The country is literally dissolving, and politics as usual is still in full swing. It's incredible.
29. This newspaper, with all of its hopes for peace, its local routines, its unanswered questions about Fort Sumter, it was published just 29 days before the first shots were fired.
And then, on April 12th, the debate was over. All the speculation you read in these pages became reality. The cannons opened fire on Fort Sumter. The Civil War began. And the world that was captured in this newspaper, this fragile world of waiting and hoping and just trying to live a normal life, it vanished. Forever.